Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated in loving memory of Jack Feldman, Alav Shalom, Lilu Nishmat Yaakov Rafael Ben Rose, sponsored by Stephen Feldman. As well, a dedicated in loving memory of Mrs. Lily Safar Shalom, Lilu Nishmat Leah Bat Chana. Her philanthropy has reached so many throughout the entire world. The week of Cobra was sponsored by David E. Ash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. We'd also like to issue a fantastic welcome to a dear friend of mine, Rav Mendel Pollack. Back in the day, we were in Yeshiva in Edison together. We had some good times. We were in camp called Torah together. I was also awed by his skill on the drums. A very, very successful and wonderful man who's joined us today for breakfast. So if you can feel some extra energy in the breakfast and the class this morning, I have to say it's due to the fact that my dear friend is here with us, Mendy Pollack. Okay, Rabotai, let's begin. Vayomer Elokim el Yaakov, and God said to Yaakov, Kum ale Bet El, rise up, come. I want you to get up and go up to Bet El. Vishev Sham, and I want you to stay there. Ve'aseh Sham mizbeach le'el hanirah elecha. I want you to make a mizbeach to the God that appeared to you, bevorchacha mepnei Esav achicha, when you ran away from Esav, your brother. This pasuk comes at the end of the parasha, at the end of all the other stories that we've had with Shechem, at the end of Parashat Vayishlach, after everything is said and done. And I want to read to you what was to me something that made me shake. The Gemara says, the Baalei Tosafot explain based on the idea of a Gemara, and the origin source is also found in the Midrash Tanchuma. But I want to read you the words of the Baalei Tosafot. And God said to Yaakov, go up to Bet El, Shanu Chachamim, our rabbis have taught us, B'shalosh Mekomot, 3 times or 3 places in a person's life, Pinkaso shel Adam Niftahat. A person's notebooks are opened. They take a look at him. They see what's going on with this fellow. What does he deserve? Should he be rewarded? Should he be punished? Hayotzeh b'derech yechidi, a person who goes and travels on the road alone. You have to realize at the time, traveling on the road was literally like skydiving, putting yourself in a situation of sakana, right? Because there were pirates on the oceans, there were bandits on the road. So you traveled by yourself, recipe for disaster. So you put yourself in a situation of sakana. What do they do in Shamayim? They open up your books and they say, do you deserve to come out of sakana? Therefore, we know a person should never put themselves in a place of sakana because number 1, maybe they don't have enough merit to get out of it. Number 2, if he is saved, then they use up zichuyot, they use up merit in order to, so to speak, to extricate you from that situation. V'ha'over b'bayit ra'ua, someone who walks through a falling house. So the house is a disaster zone. The walls are not stable. The ceiling could fall at any time. To walk through that home is a sakana. You put yourself in that situation. That they open up the books. They want to see what's going on. It's a dangerous thing to get God to open the books, right? We only want it to open on Rosh Hashanah when God is in the state of Rahamim, where we have a shofar, doing teshuvah, we're praying all day in the synagogue. And the last one, you can imagine. So traveling alone on the road, walking into a house that's about to fall down, and Rabotai, this is a scary one. Hanoder ve'eno mishalem. If a person promises something and he didn't pay up. Shemitnadev $101 lebet hakneset. You said you're going to give $101 to the shul. You promised someone in Kolel that you're going to support them. You promised the rabbi that you're going to put out his sefer into the world. I'm still a little difficult now, Rabbi. Times are a little bit tough. So sorry, I can't fulfill. You tell your children, your son-in-law, your daughter-in-law that you're going to help support them. And then you don't come through on what you said you would do. You promise someone in business that you're going to invest with them. You don't come through on the promise. Noder ve'eno mishalem. Understand the equation, my friends. Alone on a dangerous road, in a churva, in a house that's about to fall down, And you know what else is a dangerous situation to be in? Hanoder ve'eno mishalem. You know, I don't know if you remember, there's this concept in insurance policies that if a person is in a very dangerous situation, they put themselves in a dangerous situation, their insurance doesn't cover them. Or you drove your car to a neighborhood, you didn't lock the doors, you did that to yourself. You walk into a house that's falling down, you did that to yourself. No, a person decides he's going to drink a cup of poison and then he's going to drink the antidote afterwards. What do you mean? Live on the edge. You did that to yourself. Insurance is not going to pay out for that. Right? Noder ve'eno mishalem, you did that to yourself. Now this is where it gets a little bit spooky. Ukishahalach Yaakov le'aram naharaim, when Yaakov went and he left his home, Nadar ve'amar, he said to God, if God, if you'll be with me, Ushmarani, you'll protect me, and you'll return me to my father's house. Ve'halach ve'he'eshir, and he went and he became wealthy. Ve'lo hishlim nidro, but he did not pay his neder. Ve'hevi hakadosh baruch hu Esav alav ubikesh lehorgo. And God brought Esav against him to kill him. V'natal mimenu mamono, and he took his money from him. Shuhu hadoron, the present that he was forced to give. Ve'hevi Sam'el, and God brought the angel of Esav to fight with him. And he became injured. Ve'adayin lo hirgish, and Yaakov still did not realize. Ba'alav tzarat Dina ve'lo hirgish. The story with Dinah, with Shechem came to him and he didn't realize, Yaakov. Tzarat Rachel v'lo hirgish. The difficulties with Rachel, with the children, with her passing away young, and he didn't see. Kida'amrinan ba'avon nedarim eta ishto shel Adam. Shema Yisrael lo alenu. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Midrash, Ad matai yihye tzadik ze lokeh. Until when is this tzaddik going to suffer? Ve'eno yodea be'eze chet, and he doesn't know for which sin he's suffering. Hineni modi'o, I'm going to tell him. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what it means, that God said to him, you promised. When you left Israel, you promised, and you didn't deliver. And therefore you're open to all sorts of onshim, all sorts of punishment, because the sin of promising something and not delivering on what you said you would promise is enormous. So God says, Kum ale Bet El. Go back to Bet El where we first met, Yani. Where you promised something, you didn't deliver it. And bring the korban that you said you were going to bring. Bring the matzevah that you said you would do, that you would set up. Make sure you give the money to tzedakah like you promised you would. What a wild thing. If you want to live a life with less tzarot, this is what you need to do. My friends, our rabbis tell us something unbelievable. What happens if a person makes a neder, they promise they're going to do something, and during the time that they promise, they say they're going to do something, so the situation that they're promising for gets better. A guy as bar minan has a son that's not well. A guy bar minan is in a situation with the IRS. Bar minan, all the terrible things that can potentially happen to a person in this life. He's in a situation with the relationship. He can't get himself out of a problem, machloket in the family. And he senses this. So he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pledge some money to tzedakah. It's always a good thing to do, to give money to tzedakah. It brings yeshuot, it brings salvation. The guy promises. And in the meantime, before he's got a chance to pay, what happens? Gets better. He thinks to himself, oh, fantastic. You see, it's not in the merit of the tzedakah that I gave, because I didn't give tzedakah. The Chachamim say, you're playing with fire. How do you know that the reason why it got better was because you pledged? You made an neder. And in a guy that's a stand-up guy, a neder is as good as done. I must tell you, it's always a shocking thing to me when the synagogue lets us know that there's people who haven't paid their bill to the synagogue in 2 years. I don't understand. Mechila, I don't understand. You don't want to donate money, don't donate money. No one's holding a gun to your head. But to donate money and not pay it, it's not your money. You promised money to tzedakah, to a synagogue, to a almanah, to a woman who's Shema Yisrael, a tzaddik that's going to go unnamed. Okay? Made an arrangement to help out widows and orphans with the most basic necessities. So he asked me to help him find someone that needs. Baruch Hashem, this woman is now going to shop. I mentioned this last time. The arrangement was made with a certain store. The woman walks in, she buys whatever she needs. No one has any idea. She has an account like everybody else. What a beautiful thing. Could you imagine for a second, this woman comes, she puts all the stuff on the thing, and as she's checking out, the lady says, that'll be $250. The woman's like, yeah, put it on my account. That was it. And the woman's like, oh yeah, there's no account. What do you mean? But the $250, yeah, not only that, also last week's $250, also we really need you to pay it. Could you imagine? Because the guy doesn't come through, he doesn't deliver. My friends, that's no different than any time you promise someone you're going to do something. You promise a business deal is going to close. What does the guy do thinking that he's got the cash flow coming in from you? He makes moves based on that. He buys something, he makes it, he does an expense, I don't know, he fixes his kitchen. I don't know what he does. Now he's stuck because you said you would do it. Now he needs to pay. I wouldn't have done it if you didn't tell me to do it. People budget based on what they think is coming in. You promise you're going to do something. And it's not just money. You promise you're going to help somebody do something. You're going to get this guy in. You know how people like to talk. This guy, me and him, we're like this. You want a job with him? I'm going to speak to him. Good as done. You know people that talk like that? What does the guy do now? Quits his job. Comes to you Sunday morning. Did you speak to him? The guy's like, oh, it's a little bit difficult now. I borrowed some money over the weekend. I don't know if I could ask him for a favor. I quit my job. My friends, this idea is not only money. It's not only job. It's what we promise our wives and children. And there's promises that we make to our wives and children that are said that way. I promise I'll give you. But there's other things too. When you tell them you're going to go on vacation, and then you decide, you know what? It's a little tough now, not going to go on vacation. I want you to understand that your daughter walked into school that day, or that week, and she told everyone, because she felt left out, everyone else was going away, she told everyone she's going to Israel with her family now, this, winter break. And now she's humiliated in front of all of her friends that she has to say, oh, well, noder ve'eno mishalem. A person exposes themselves to all sorts of difficulties. When they promise, they say they're going to do something and they don't do it. I want to share with you an interesting psak halacha. Rabbi Zilberstein brings down. There was a case that came before the Maharsham. And they asked him what the ruling was. There was a certain city that the city came under a certain terrible decree. And through this terrible decree, the people were terrified, they didn't know what's going to be. They sent a message to a certain tzaddik and they said, please, we need your help. What do we know? Person's in a situation, the Gemara already says, go give tzedakah. Tzedakah is even tatzil mimavet. Tzedakah saves from death. People say, they get together, okay. The rabbi said, if we want Yeshuah, then we should send him money to give out to the Yitomim and the Almanot, to the orphans, to the widows, to the poor. This is what he's going to do. He's going to distribute it on our behalf. He's going to pray for our salvation. Anyway, they send the money. A little while later, into the town comes the courier. Hear ye, hear ye. Yeah, message from the king. The king has decided to annul the decree. Anyway, they see the decree, it's posted in town square. They notice that the date on the decree from the king is dated when? Before they sent the money. Remember in the Megillah? Pachegen hakitav lehinatin dat, right? This paper was sent out, dichufim, with the fast runners, with the horses. I don't know, maybe this king didn't have horses. He had donkeys. It took a long time to get there. What can I say? End of the day, my friends, you have people in the city, they say they want the money back. The Maharsham ruled a fascinating ruling. He says not only can God save somebody not based on whether they paid the money, not only can God save someone not based on whether they pledged the money, but God can even save someone based on the fact that as God, He knows that they're going to pledge the money. So even though they were already saved when they decided to send the money, it was before they did anything. But it was the fact, based on the fact that God knew that they were going to send it. So this idea to say to yourself, I didn't have to, I shouldn't have, I pledged all this money, I did this big mitzvah, I decided to write a Sefer Torah, and it turns out, what happened? I got the message back, they made a mistake. It wasn't my family member that was sick in the hospital. They got the medical records mixed up. And you're thinking, whoo, dodge that one. This is why you dodged that one. I feel bad for the other person that now has your daughter's sickness, Yani, okay? But we have to understand this. Where do we find an example of this? That God does something, that we look at what's going to happen in the future, and we make decisions now based on what's going to happen in the future. We have an example with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he sees this Egyptian man who's torturing this Jewish man, Vayifen ko vacho vayar ki enish. He looked this way, and he saw that there was no man. The Chachamim explained that Moshe Rabbeinu looked with his nivu'ah into this man's future. Is there someone in the future that merits, that his merit would be that I should keep his great-great-grandfather alive now? I would stop now, but who knows if the reason why Hashem... No, I'm joking. My friends, I want to say that just like every time we learn Torah together, the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat, "Kepatish shifotzetz sela," like a hammer breaks a stone. That is the words of Torah. So it always was so interesting to me. Why is it kepatish shifotzetz sela? That there's so many different interpretations to Torah. So when you hit it, what happens when you shatter a stone? Breaks into many pieces, correct? But the imagery of what happens when a hammer breaks a stone is not just that it breaks into pieces. What happens? It almost explodes. The shards of that stone fly everywhere. If you are taking a hammer to a stone, you know what you better be wearing? Safety goggles. Why? Because they fly everywhere. So too the words of Torah, they're not only divided into different pieces, but what you learn in this sugya, in this story, has ramifications and applications over there. And what you learn over there has ramifications and applications over here. So we're talking over here about the importance of a neder. But I want to learn a little bit of a different lesson from this as well. You know, there are many different things that people do for Segula. So we had this morning, Ariel went up to open up the Aron, right? Because it's a Segula in the 9th month or whatever it is. A person, when someone's wife is coming due to give Bisha'ato or Mutzlachat, we give them the opportunity to do P'tihat HaEchal. Should be Bisha'ah Tova, inshallah. I remember actually once, someone came to open up, and the idea is that the giving birth, the opening should happen in a natural way. Anyway, so the guy opened the Aron, and what's it called? And I said to him, maybe you don't want to close it so it goes everything goes easy, you know. If the segula is to open it, maybe. My father said, no, there has to be a healing process too after the birth is over. So he has to do the opening of the aron and also the closing. My father taught me that. Anyway, so it's a big segula. There's many different things like this. So one of the segulot, one of the famous segulot, is that a person who's trying to have children should buy, and give them the money to a tzedakah, but to buy the aliyah of Chana, maftir Chana, on Rosh Hashanah. Because in that maftir, on that holy day, you're reading these words from the Sefer Torah on the holy day to someone who's being judged for that year. You're reading that he was blessed with children, that Chana was blessed with children after all that time. So in many synagogues, it goes for a lot of money. People try and vie for that opportunity to be able to say, you have a guy, Hazi, 16 years he's waiting for children. Doesn't have a lot of money, but someone told him it's a big zechut. So he starts putting money away, money he doesn't really have. He's going to push himself to do this wonderful act, this act of tzedakah to the Beit Knesset, to have this segula, to be able to have children, to buy maftir hana. Anyway, he buys it. He wins the bid. So excited. As they're doing the tefillot, the Kiryat Torah, that year it happened to be that it was on Shabbat. And before maftir you have aliyat shvi'i. At aliyat shishi, all of a sudden a man stands up to go to Torah. And as he starts walking to Torah, there starts a ruckus. Another man stands up and says, you're going up shishi? You can't go up shishi. I'm going up shvi'i. What's the problem? The two men are brothers. There's a halakha that two brothers are not allowed to go up to the sefer one after the next. So in some synagogues, what do? They just add an aliyah in between. Rakkeh, they say. They add another aliyah. But some synagogues, they don't do that. They don't have extra aliyah. They have the number of aliyah you're supposed to have. So aliyah number 6, Reuven. Aliyah number 7 is going to be Shimon. Shimon's going crazy. What do you mean? I can't believe it. I have this aliyah. Anyway, Shimon, aliyat shvi'i, turns around to our fellow, this guy who hasn't had kids in 16 years, putting aside money all year to buy maftir hana, right? He's shaking from anticipation. He says, look, I can't go up, so let's switch aliyot. I'll take maftir hana, you go up shvi'i. The guy's like, what? So he's taken aback, but in the ruckus, he doesn't know what to do, so he says, okay. Meanwhile, people can't believe what's going on here, right? But by the time everyone is kind of talking about it, aliyat shishi is done, and this guy stands up and goes aliyat shvi'i. Fella goes up maftir hana, this other guy. He comes down, swarmed with people. The guy thinks they're all coming for Misha Berach. They all want to kill him. Misha Berach, Misha Kelal. Misha Trach. Anyway, what are you, crazy? Do you know the long this guy's waiting? You know that money that he paid for it he doesn't have? He was so excited. How could you ask him to do that in public? Put him on the spot. This, that. Anyway, the guy, he can't breathe. He can't believe it. He feels terrible. Anyway, I'm so sorry. The guy says, no, it's okay. Don't worry. Pushes him off. He feels terrible. My friends, a year goes by. It's Rosh Hashanah. And as they walk into the synagogue, everyone's finding their seats. This man who was unable to have children is walking into the Beit Knesset. But before he walks in, Mr. Shvi'i is waiting at the door of the synagogue. And he's crying and his eyes are red. And he says, I want to tell you, I haven't slept for the longest time. I didn't know what to do, how to ask for forgiveness. I didn't know that the reason why you were buying was as a sigulat to have children. You were struggling. So I decided, he says, that I'm going to go out of my way to put money aside to be able to purchase for you maftir hana. And he says, and I bought it, and it's yours. Please forgive me. This is the only way I could think of to get kapara for the fact of what I did to you publicly. And please, and Hashem should bless you. And the man says, no, fine, it's fine. It's fine. He says, no, I know you told me it's fine. I know you told me it's fine. It's not fine. He goes, no, it's fine. He goes, it's not the same, it's fine. On Rosh Hashanah, I told you it's fine. Now it's fine. He says, 3 months ago, my wife gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Yesterday we talked about the idea that mevatrim lo mafsidim. A person who gives in doesn't lose. But I think there's something else here also. And that's that there are many ways for Borei Olam to skin a cat. Although I don't know why that phrase is a phrase, it sounds terrible. That's the way we want to describe achievement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a segula of maftir chana. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need a segula of maftir chana. He sees someone that rises above, that does something in an unbelievable way, overcomes, doesn't yell, doesn't scream, recognizes that he's about to make shalom between two brothers, stands up, does that unbelievable act. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he could notice that too. And what made me realize in this story, it made me realize that there's so many different ways, so many different paths to the goal. In this instance, in the story of Yaakov Avinu, it's the same. Yaakov, I imagine, in the words of the Midrash, they made me think, I have this, so many different things going on. Comes the Midrash and tells us, Ad matai, until when? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ad matai yet tzadik ze lokeh. Until how long is he going to stay getting punished? Ve'eno yodea be'ezech. He doesn't realize with which sin it is that he's opened himself for punishment. The way a Jewish mind works, the way the Torah is communicating to us, is when you see that something's not working, you have to stand up and figure out what it is that's causing this problem. To get up and to try and make the moves. But ultimately, Borei Olam, sometimes he tells you, I know you think it's this, but it's this. You see, most people look at the story and they see a man who had a segula, lost the segula, wound up getting a beracha from another way. I don't think that that's what happened at all. I think that the man pushed himself. And God said, okay, I want to give you beracha, but let me see if you step up to the plate. He does the old switcheroo on him at the last second. And imagine the man says to himself, I need the segula. What are you talking about? Get out of my face. And he lets the two brothers fight on Rosh Hashanah. Who's going to get Shishi? Who's going to get Shvi'i? You put a family back together. You made sure there wasn't a fight in a family. I'm going to give you a family. But the man could have misread the situation completely and been focused on his segula of maftir chana. And then who knows if he would have got the blessing at all. He didn't switch one for the other. This was the nisayon. My friends, Yaakov Avinu does a lot of good things, but Borei Olam just wants one thing from him, in the words of the Midrash. Fulfill your neder. My friends, a person should ask themselves, not to chase random segulot, not to chase random ideas, but what am I beholden to? What must I change? What must I do? I think there's a powerful idea here. Instead of adding new random things to your repertoire, aren't there things that are baseline things that you should be doing? Person's thinking to themselves, you know what I need to do? I need to bring in Shabbat 2 minutes early. Maybe you also need to do that. But if you're a lying, cheating son of a gun, maybe you shouldn't think about bringing Shabbat in 2 minutes early, and you should think about being a mensch. If you're not a nice person, there are baseline things that we are chayav, that we owe. Before you add another extra wonderful thing in your marriage, just think, are you paying attention? Are you present? Oftentimes, we're off running from maftir khana when there's a machloket, something we're sitting here right in front of our very face. May Hashem bless us always to be able to notice. And if it is a situation where we can't figure it out, may Hashem bless us with the same blessing with Yaakov, where He reveals to Yaakov and makes it absolutely clear the path that he needs to follow in order to bring beracha into his life. Baruch Adonai.